The Princess and the Frog. Ever since she was a little girl, Tiana loved to cook. Tiana and her friend Charlotte would talk about their wishes for the future. Tiana's mother was Charlotte's seamstress. While she sewed beautiful dresses for Charlotte, she read stories to the girls, too. One was about a prince who had turned into a frog. There was no way in this whole wide world I would ever, I mean never, kiss a frog, Tiana declared. Charlotte said she would. Charlotte desperately wanted to marry a prince, become a princess, and live happily ever after. But what Tiana wished for on the Evening Star was to open a restaurant with her father. He told her that she must work hard to make that wish come true. Never lose sight of what's really important, he said. When Tiana got older, she remembered what her father had told her. She worked hard in both of her waitressing jobs so she could make the money to open a restaurant in the old sugar mill down in town. Her father passed away, but Tiana was determined to see that wish through. One day, Charlotte shared some exciting news. "Oh, Tia," she cried, "did you hear? Prince Naveen of Maldonia is coming to New Orleans, and Big Daddy invited him to our masquerade ball tonight." Big Daddy was Charlotte's father. He was also the king of the Mardi Gras in New Orleans. Charlotte asked Tiana to make 500 of her famous beignets for the ball. Tiana agreed, and Charlotte paid her. Tiana couldn't believe it. She had enough money to buy the old sugar mill. She met with the Fenier brothers, and they both agreed to start the paperwork. Meanwhile, Prince Naveen had arrived. He listened to some jazz music and danced. His valet, Lawrence, tried to tell him that they were going to be late for the ball. "At this point, you have two choices. Woo and marry a rich lady, or get a job," said Lawrence. Naveen was a prince, but his parents refused to give him any more money. He came to New Orleans in hopes to solve all of his problems. Just then, the evil Dr. Fancier stepped out of the shadows and said, "I'll wager I'm in company of visiting royalty." Prince Naveen was flattered. He and Lawrence followed Dr. Fancier to his lair. Dr. Fancier told the two men that he could give them what their hearts desired. Persuaded, Naveen and Lawrence shook his hand. As evil voodoo spirits swirled around the room, Dr. Fancier pricked Naveen's finger and conjured a magical necklace, and the deal had been sealed. At the masquerade ball that night, Charlotte couldn't wait to meet Prince Naveen. Little did she know that the prince had arrived and was no prince at all. It was Lawrence disguised as Naveen. The magic necklace had transformed him. All along, Lawrence wanted to become a prince. Tiana was handing out beignets when the Fenier brothers told her that they had sold the sugar mill to somebody else for more money. Tiana was heartbroken. Just then, all of her beignets fell to the floor around her. Charlotte sent Tiana upstairs to get cleaned up. Alone, Tiana went out to the balcony and looked up at the evening star. Just then, a frog hopped over the ledge. "I suppose you want a kiss," she said jokingly, but the frog spoke back and puckered his lips, and Tiana screamed. After Tiana calmed down, the frog explained to her that he was really Prince Naveen. He insisted that if Tiana kissed him, he would transform back into a prince. He promised her a reward. Tiana thought of her restaurant and knew what she had to do. But the kiss didn't turn Naveen back into the prince. It turned Tiana into a frog. Tiana screamed again, and both frogs fell out of the window and onto the dance floor. And as people at the ball tried to catch them, Naveen and Tiana grabbed some balloon strings and floated away, safe from the humans. When Dr. Fancier learned that Naveen had escaped, he was very angry. They needed to keep Naveen trapped so that Lawrence could remain disguised as the prince and married Charlotte. Then Dr. Fancier would get rid of Charlotte's father and take over all of New Orleans. They had to find Naveen as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Naveen and Tiana had been carried by the balloons to a swamp. Soon, a bunch of alligators swamped up and tried to eat them. Tiana and Naveen scurried into a tree, and they had slept there that night. The next morning, Tiana and Naveen were greeted by another alligator, but this one was friendly. His name was Lewis. Tiana explained their situation, and Lewis suggested they find Mama Odie. "She got magic," he told the frogs. Tiana and Naveen were so excited that they were going to become human again. As they swam along, the night began to fall. Just then, a lightning bug named Ray showed up. He informed them that they were going the wrong way. He offered to take them to Mama Odie's. They stopped to rest a bit, and Tiana showed Naveen just how to mince mushrooms for some swamp gumbo. Then you'll live in a castle. Everything is done for, or when you live in a castle and everything is done for you, Naveen admitted. He tried to grab some of Tiana's gumbo. It was delicious. You truly have a gift, he told her. Then they danced. Finally, the group arrived at Mama Odie's. Tiana and Naveen told her what they wanted. You want to be human, but you're blind to what you need, Mama Odie replied, but she agreed to help them anyway. She stirred a pot of gumbo, and then an image appeared inside. It was Charlotte and her father dressed as royalty. Big Daddy was the king of the Mardi Gras, which would make Charlotte a princess on the night of Mardi Gras. Naveen needed to be kissed by a true princess. Tiana and Naveen realized that if Naveen kissed Charlotte before midnight, they could both be human again. They had to get back to town. They hurried off and hitched a ride in a boat. But then Naveen had realized something. He loved Tiana. He wanted to tell her, but he didn't know how. The two frogs sat on the top of the boat, and Tiana excitedly pointed out the sugar mill that she had hoped would someday be her restaurant. As long as Naveen kissed Charlotte, Tiana would get her reward. But Naveen didn't want to kiss Charlotte. He realized he couldn't help Tiana, and he hopped away. Suddenly, the evil spirit of Dr. Francier grabbed Naveen. When the boat docked, Tiana couldn't find Naveen. Ray told her that the prince was in love with her, and Tiana was so happy she felt the same way. Just then, Tiana saw Charlotte in the Mardi Gras parade. Charlotte was with Naveen, and they were about to get married. Devastated, Tiana didn't realize that Lawrence was disguised as Naveen, and the real prince was still trapped. But Ray managed to free Naveen and grab the necklace that Lawrence was wearing. When Tiana smashed it to pieces, as soon as she did, the evil spirits took Dr. Francier away. Tiana and Naveen told Charlotte the whole story, and suddenly the clock struck midnight. It was too late. They would remain frogs forever. But that was okay with Tiana and Naveen. They had found true love, and they had decided to get married at the swamp. Mama Odie declared them husband and wife. As the frogs kissed, magic swirled around them. When they opened their eyes, they were human again. Once Tiana became Naveen's wife, she was a princess, and then the spell was broken. Later on, after much hard work, Tiana and Naveen opened up the restaurant Tiana had always dreamed of. Finally, they both had everything they ever wanted, and the one thing they truly needed. They had love. The end.